When you're looking to move to a new area and trying to do research online, here are some ways to get that information. And this is going to apply to any place, not just in the Denver metro area, which is where I work. This is applicable to anywhere that you're looking to go. There tends to be two different kinds of information. One is going to be a little bit more anecdotal. What's the vibe like? Who lives there? Their opinions. The other piece is analytical, which my type A research people love. Give me some numbers, data, hard evidence, not just some troll on the internet saying that this place sucks because they had a bad experience. You can find good and bad things said online about any place in the world. In my 5 mistakes that people make when moving to a new area video that I'll link up above, I talk a lot about making decisions based on other people's opinions. You need to have enough information to make an educated decision. Starting with the anecdotal evidence, you can certainly go here on YouTube. Go check those things out. I have driving tours so you have an idea of what is it like driving through this neighborhood? What is the commute like? Is it stop and go traffic the entire time? Does it flow pretty well? How far is it? What do you pass along the way? But there's tons of information online and videos online about what different areas are like. Now, real estate agents in particular are legally restricted on a lot of the things we can and cannot say in those videos. Personally, I think some people push the envelope a little bit on those, but go check some videos on YouTube as a way to get some anecdotal evidence. Another thing is going on Reddit. If you're moving to Denver, there's a Denver subreddit. If you're moving to LA, there's a ton of subreddits. Especially if you're familiar with Reddit, go ask some questions or get an idea of what the vibe is like in those different areas. Now keep in mind, if you're on Reddit, you understand the types of answers you are going to get. It might be a little trolling. So you have to take those with a grain of salt, but there is some really good opinions and people's experiences in different neighborhoods. So that's another place to look. You can certainly go to ChatGPT. There's a lot of neighborhood guides and blog posts, especially from real estate agents in different areas, that it can pull from to give you some information. As I mentioned before, strictly anecdotal evidence, take it for what it's worth. Another thing I mentioned in my mistakes moving to an area video is making sure that you visit the area, because a lot of people don't, and they make these decisions without visiting the area. Take a weekend trip, go visit the area. There's tons of ideas in that video about things that you can do. Go to the grocery store. If you are wondering what the area is like, who lives in the area, what's the vibe, right? Go to the grocery store. Check out the cars in the parking lot. Check out the people in the grocery store. See how friendly everybody is. Depending on the day and time that you're going to the grocery store might determine who you see there. So if you're going on a Tuesday at 11:30 in the morning, you might see a demographic that is not necessarily representative of the neighborhood because those are the people that aren't working. Maybe most of the people work during the day. But you can learn a ton about an area by going to the grocery store, going to the library, going to the restaurants. The places that the people live there are going to go. Check out videos, do some reading and some Googling online, go talk to ChatGPT and see what it tells you. Search on Facebook groups, search on Reddit, search on all of these forums where other people are giving you examples of their experiences. Keep in mind their opinions, but it's a good way to collect some anecdotal information. When it comes to the analytical side, this is where I like to have fun and get excited, but legally I can't talk about a lot of these things. However, a lot of these are publicly available resources. I have driving tours on my YouTube channel, as I mentioned, because it's like a Google Street View, but faster. It's just me driving through a neighborhood, blabbing about the houses and the neighborhood and the price points and technical things with the homes that you may want to be aware of if you're buying in that area. It's essentially to give you a view of the neighborhood. You can always go to Google Street View and especially go back and check the history on Google Street View because that will show you maybe the neighborhood has changed in the last 10 years. That can make a huge difference if you're looking at a house online. You can see what that house looked like in the past. Another thing you can do is go to Google Maps and put in what your commute would be from a particular house. Let's say you know where you're going to work, but maybe you don't know what the traffic is like. If you have a minute commute in mind, go to Google Maps, put in the address, and you can put leaving this house at 7 a.m. and I need to be here at this time. And it will give you average data based on historical traffic data. That's really cool. And in the MLS, I can actually use that traffic historical data to search for a home that's going to be within a 30-minute commute, a particular office location. I use that when I'm setting up home searches for my clients. Just another detailed data source for you if you're trying to get an idea on drive time to and from a particular location or from different parts of town. This is where I like to have fun when it comes to the analytical side. One of my favorite resources is the FFIEC Geocoding systems. I'll link it down below. This is a really good way to get small neighborhood data from the census tables. This is why it's cool. So we're going to use a property. You can hit census demographic data and it will pop up this little box for this particular census tract. Each one of these blue lines outlines a particular census tract. So you're actually getting not down to a block, but down to a small neighborhood area. You can see a lot of detail about where is the income level of the tract. Is it distressed? What is the median family income? What was it back in the last census in 2020? What's the population breakdown? Here's where it's really helpful to translate table information and numbers into how that feels as a neighborhood. For this particular census tract, there's 1,707 housing units. So places that people can live. But there's only 271 that are 1 to 4 family. Single family, duplex, triplex, quadplex. That means there's a little over 1,400 that are more than 4 units. Homes that have been converted to 5+ units. Condos, apartments, more dense housing. And then your renter occupied units is 1,276 versus your owner occupied is 366. So there's a lot of people that rent in that particular census tract. If you're curious and you want to compare that to another area, you can click this little box that says user select tract, and you can click on another census tract and hit census demographic data, and it will give you that same data for the other tract as well. And you can compare apples to apples. So look at this one. There's 1,500 housing units, but there's only 9 houses. Okay, well, that's the heart of downtown. There's not a lot of single family homes there. There's going to be some condos and some apartments mixed into the high rises. Let's say you want a little bit more neighborhood vibe, but you want to be something close. Let's go over here to Whittier, for example, and make that our census tract. Now look, there's 2,154 housing units and 1,900 of them are 1 to 4 family homes, which means it's a lot less high rise or apartments. There's 1,200 owner occupied units and 868 renter occupied units. So you can see that there's more homeowners than renters for that particular area, even though it's super close. It's not the same as being there, but this gives you a really good data indication of what's the breakdown of the area. But these are things realtors cannot tell you for a house that you're saying, hey, I want to go where everyone owns a home and nobody rents it. Well, I'm not legally allowed to steer you towards or away those. Here's some data sources where you can say, I want to live in Whittier, I want to live in North Cap Hill, I want to live downtown, or I want to live somewhere else. I can tell you where to find the information. You can tell me where we want to go. That's one of my favorite examples. It's down in the weeds, but it's not super nitty gritty. Another resource that I've found recently that I really like is policymap.com. So this takes those census tables and makes it a much more interactive experience as far as visual and on the map. You can go here to open map and it's going to say, hey, log in. I don't know these people. I'm not promoting it, but you can go down here and hit enter without logging in. We'll give you a map. Because I was in here earlier, it already has an area pulled up, but you can put in an address and it will pull that particular area up on the map. And it's like, okay, cool. So you can hit this little X and you're like, well, now what? Now you have all of these wonderful data points that it will graphically display for you. Let's go look at the housing one. Now, obviously they want to sell you information. So a lot of this stuff is going to be grayed out. What's the typical sales price? Blah, 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 blah. If you want to check demographics, for example, because like I said, I can't steer you towards or away a particular place for that. And you just want to know, okay, roughly what's the median age of the people that live there? Ta-da! It gives you so much information. And this is all off of census data. And it even tells you the source over here. So over here, it says source census 2018 to 2022. It's going to give you a little caveat that, hey, there might be some changes in the data set. You can go back to the source data, which is really cool. This will go down to the block group. Essentially, block group is about as zoomed in as you can get off of census data. And then the state is about as zoomed out as you can get. The FFIEC geocode tables that we looked at were based on census tract. And here's where this makes a difference on where you slice and dice and cut the census tract. So the census tract is great, but when it crosses major arterial roadways, when it crosses into neighborhoods, everyone knows that when you cross certain streets, vibes can change, right? Here's a good example because I'm really familiar with this particular area. So you can see that it says the median age of the census tract is 31. Now, when we take it down to the block group, look how this splits. Now the median age of the area to the east of Parker Road is 58, and the area immediately to the west is 28 to 29. But that tells you if this area could pull that median age of the whole census tract down, this is really dense housing. This is not. So getting down to the block group will help you get the individual neighborhood vibe much better. But if you want a little bit more of, hey, what's the city vibe like? Then you can back it out to the city. I know this is really busy. I know this is really nitty gritty, but it gives you such a good idea of what an area is like. If you're trying to look for owner versus renters versus how dense is the housing and what's the income for the area, what's the demographics of the area, you can even do who's paid their taxes in this particular area. There's tons of data that you can pull off of this number of tax returns. So, and this only goes down to the zip code. So depending on the data point and which part of the census table it's pulling from, it won't let you get as granular because not all data points are pulled to that small of a geographic scale. Just as another example, they have a quality of life tab. You can go to transportation mode to work. Of these people, what percentage are driving to work? Living in this particular neighborhood, for example, because we just use a particular address. You can see everyone over here drives to work. A lot of these people don't drive to work. Maybe they're retired. Maybe they work from home. Maybe they telecommute. There's tons of information in here that when you're trying to move to an area and you're looking at a really, really big map, a few data points can answer so many questions. Like I said, don't let this make the decision for you. It's strictly information. Even parks. This one I was playing with earlier and it doesn't capture everything. So don't feel like, hey, there's not a park there. I'm going to drop this other layer so it's not so colored. But you can see, okay, in certain areas, there's a ton of green spaces. Like down here in Highlands Ranch, there's actually a lot of parks that don't show up on here. Don't use any one thing as a decision maker, but use them all as individual data points that can help you create that picture of what a place is like when you're doing research online until you go visit. So I know that's a lot of information. Most of my clients are not going to go to that level of detail, but I work with a lot of type A detailed analytical clients, and these are data sources that I am providing them to do the research on where they may or may not want to live. I also do virtual showings, how I help clients do virtual relocations and buy a house off of video showings with all the information that they need to make that decision comfortably. And if you want to learn more about virtual relocation and how I can help you with that if you're moving to the Denver area, check that out up here. Thanks so much.